which I think started about 2 hours ago, where I'm at. September 22nd, 2025. So the rescheduled Zoom conference is going to begin in about 2 hours. The last one didn't really happen because I didn't have premium and they cut us off at 40 minutes, which is certainly not enough time, because the purpose of Zoom, as opposed to a stream like this, is we can go over the video content. We can look at the stuff that's being presented as evidence of hoaxery and discuss it in better detail. So that's going to start here soon. If you remember, I gave a link, and once you have the link, the password is IPS. It will be recorded, so if you can't make it, it's no big deal. And we're going to go over sections. So I was just finding some new stuff here about Hulu. This is unbelievable. Well, I won't say it's unbelievable because we talk about it all the time. But this thing with Hulu, The Tempest, has so many more overlaps now that we'll be talking about. I better move the phone so it doesn't overheat. It's in the sun. But we got to come up with a list of these subjects. So, okay, first of all, during the memorial service yesterday, Erica, and we found some fascinating connections with the Kraken theme, anagrammatically, but Erica was referred to as a widow before, the widow, but the storm. They called her the storm. And of course, we're drawing parallels. We're noticing the intentional parallels between the Charlie Kirk assassination and Erica Storm taking over TPUSA, and the Hulu series called The Tempest, which of course is a storm. And the overlaps are going even before the movie started. So the show comes out on 9/10, the day he's shot. The leader of the New Republicans is shot in the neck. Well, the New Republicans, and it's in a church, which has a Kirk church connection. The New Republicans there in this TV show, it's based on an actual political group in Korea, in South Korea. And that particular group, and this is the new development, the group that it's based on for Hulu is the same group that Charlie Kirk visited the week before, 4 days before his shooting. And they prayed over him. So I have a video of this real political group, this Christian conservative group, praying for Charlie Kirk. And then 4 days later, in a fictional version of the same situation, a character that corresponds to him is shot on the side of his neck exactly where he's shot at the same time, same day. So if that's not deep enough, then it goes to the widow and how Erica Kirk has been introduced as the widow, and this has been a theme. And also being referred to as the storm. Well, the character who is the widow of the assassinated leader takes over his organization. And she's told, if you're going to be taken seriously, you're going to have a triple axel moment when you introduce yourself to the masses. You're going to have a triple axel in the sense that they gave her a script. You're going to have to cry on cue and create a moment of vulnerability. And then you'll be taken seriously as a leader. Well, what did we just witness with the widow of Charlie Kirk? Going up on stage and doing the exact same thing. So I'm like, okay, then what happens next? So I watched episode 4, but I noticed that right before it ends on episode 3, at the end of episode 3, after her triple axel moment, what happens is it goes to a nuclear submarine underwater, and then a missile launches out. And it's a nuke. So there's this incoming narrative involving nuclear war. And then someone pointed out to me the storm, the connection between this and the anagram of Kraken contained in her name. And she was called the Storm by Stephen Miller. That was the guy's name. So if we're watching the tracking of this series with the real world event, and they've merged the world stage and the world of fiction, they've merged the two here, then it makes sense to continue to watch and see what else happens to show up. And so I'm watching even further, and yeah, there's definitely indications here. In fact, there's an attempt on her life in the form of a bombing of a train, but it's at the end after her big speech when the missile goes off. So I'm going to watch that next. King Ravana says, "Into the eye of the storm." Well, I think Tempest is an interesting reference because we're always talking about world stage, and this is Shakespeare. Brave New World mentioned in it. But in the South Korean version of the Tempest, the title is the North Star. And I guess it's some kind of analogy about the center of the storm. Our live in Zoom, we're going to talk about the Metascript connections with, there's even more stuff, but Turner Diaries and The Tempest are the major ones that we're going to be looking at. Turner Diaries, Turning Point USA, and all that, and this. And we're going to look at the visual and more discrepancies and indicators of hoaxery that have showed up. We'll do a little bit of research into squibs. And there's this weird thing that's occurred with JFK. All the JFK overlaps will be addressed, conspicuously inserted into the story. The JFKification of Charlie Kirk. It's by design. And interestingly enough, Charlie Sheen shows up in September with this comeback. I really haven't paid attention to Charlie Sheen. He shows up, he's on Joe Rogan, and they have a 10-minute conversation about JFK and Lee Harvey Oswald, the assassination. And during that conversation, Charlie Kirk is shot, and they talk about it. So we have a lot of interesting links with JFK, which we'll get into as well, because we're looking at a templated PSYOP. King Kill 33. So if you're not familiar with the notion of King Kill 33, it's the script that underlies the JFK assassination. And the 33 has a lot to do with this whole scenario, as well as Fraser's golden bow and the killing of the king. There's some lore that goes into this. There's also some Macbeth tied into JFK, which might be worth looking at. But we're looking at the underlying stories and the repeated themes that would correlate JFK and Charlie Kirk. And it's getting pretty clear to me that these are identical ops. And that they are being... The parallels are just incredible, as we'll get into. Yeah, that's right, Noah. Lord Laney says, Noah's little weather bird in the sky, they're warning of a flood of information. Yeah, Noah had an angel to warn him. But the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration has a weather satellite. Kind of like an angel. And then you have Noah's flood, and then we have the Noah always telling us about climate change and the flood that's going to be brought about by the wickedness of the polluters. The ones who are not taking care of, they're not pleasing Gaia. And so you can look at Gaia as a God construct. Gaia as a God construct, and this is a tangent. This is a weather god, a flood god. This is an eschatology, but it's a God construct. If you believe in Gaia as advertised and Gaia's attitude towards your carbon footprint, then you've accepted a counterpart, an alternative, but it's the same thing, to God and sin. You just changed the terminology. So now your sin is your carbon footprint, your pollution, you're a born polluter. And then you try to recycle. You try to live green, which is about living according to the will of Gaia in order to stave off Gaia's judgment, which again, it's a doomsday. What's up, Ryler05? Okay, so we're gonna have to talk about squibs. Erica Kirk. There's some Trump connections that are interesting as well with her miss. And here's something, it's not a big deal, but like I was just noticing. So he's getting married to her in 2021. I think she's like 37 now. So there's a little bit of an age discrepancy. It doesn't mean much, but looking at her background, she had mentioned her mother working with the DOD or Department of Homeland Security in kind of a vague, jumbled way, which we'll play. And then there's more. Candace Owens started the conversation, the Superman stuff. This is getting good too. And Synchromorpheus found another connection we'll get into there. So Candace Owens told us that there was no blood, there was no gore. And so they altered the story, or they had the story set up so that, no, that he was like a Superman, a man of steel. He caught the bullet in his spine so it wouldn't kill anybody else. So now we're told he's the Man of Steel. Well, then we see the image that Candace Owens uploaded of the shooter looking like Lex Luthor from Superman, which is kind of weird, next to a Superman poster. They just dubbed him the Man of Steel. And that's technically a miracle, which I think means that he'll be able to be canonized as a saint. Who's going to become a saint first? Charlie Kirk or Luigi Mangione? If they both are applying for sainthood, I'm assuming. What's up, Deja Vision? Thank you for joining. Okay, so we'll get a new sheet here. I mean, I'm all over the place. So the main categories that we're going to discuss. Metascript, which will include Hulu's Tempest plus Turner Diaries. We're going to look into the JFK aspects. And we're going to look at the predictive programming, as well as concurrent. Charlie Sheen, there's some weird stuff going on. I posted it in Discord this morning. I see a magazine with Charlie Sheen's face, and it says, "It's a miracle, I'm alive." It's like, Charlie, I'm a miracle. It's a miracle, I'm alive. And there's a couple of other things too people noticed from some season finale of that show, 2.5 Men. Just some weird, bizarre stuff about a Charlie not really being dead, just popping up right now. Alongside Charlie Sheen's weird joke about O.J. Simpson, which seemed timed with the killing on the subway. And then this JFK conversation during which the thing happens. And then Roger Stone comparing it to JFK, saying that Kirk wanted to talk about JFK. And there's a template here that we're also going to discuss. The template, the second shooter, the Israel scapegoat, which is where it's all going. Okay, so anyway, Candace Owens said that she identified the guy in the tent taking down the crime scene and taking the SD camera out, the SD card out of the camera. She knows that guy. They work together at TPUSA. And again, we got to talk about TPUSA in the context of Turner Diaries and the turning point meme, which I predicted a while ago would become the point where the Kraken on the right wakes up. So this thing is just really, there's a lot to unpack here. There's certainly quite a lot more to come as well. But yesterday was quite a big reveal. The fact that they're on stage calling her the Storm by name, these associations with the movie are incredible in and of themselves. The fact that Charlie was literally there getting prayed over is a big deal as well. But there's a lot of stuff that we can look into as far as the videos, because the person that Candace Owens knows who took the card out of the camera, you see him again. He somehow knew to run around the corner and prop up on this wall next to the SUV. So they're loading Charlie into the SUV, and there's a woman here inexplicably recording that way, not even noticing them. No close-ups. And then the guy who took down the camera, who talked to Candace Owens and showed it to her, even though they claimed it was given to the FBI, he's there as well, propped up on a wall, also recording. It's just extremely choreographed, as you'll see. Eric John Phelps blamed the bodyguards for the hit. Yeah, look, if you look at the JFK assassination, and just for the record, JFK wasn't killed on 11/22/63. He was shot, but he was shot by Stanley Kubrick. but they certainly took it down rather quickly. And I mean, it's incredibly choreographed. But, you know, like the JFK thing you had, was it the shooter on the grassy knoll, the shooter in the book depository? They had something about a guy in the sewer or from underground. Then it was the driver. Then it was Jackie. So you have a number of different culprits that are equally likely or possible. Like, okay, these are all the possible shots, and they all act like they're doing it. And they're acting like this on purpose. And so we're noticing the choreography. And so Kirk's mentor, pastor guy, the guy who wrote the books, and he has these 2 books, which we'll go over. And the books one of them has the globe with like a bullet hole in the middle, trans flag on it. And these books are from like 10 years ago. And then the other book is just like stolen from God or something, and the O is a bullet hole. So I'm pointing this out. I'm like, hey, this author of these 2 books was right there and helped Charlie get into the SUV. Like he was one of them. It all seems incredibly choreographed. So when he gave his speech at the event, which was kind of repeating what he told Fox, he added on the reason why he was in the SUV. He said he was like a son to me, and what father wouldn't want to be there? And so it's almost like they're trying to do damage control real time. Cygirl says they turned the world over for a squib of Hollywood blood on camera. Yeah, incredible. And lasers, that's true as well. We haven't seen it, but JFK, 2 months before his shooting, Jackie and he and his Secret Service made a home movie, that involved Heinz 57 ketchup. Poured all over the president, pretending to be dead on the floor. And some of the still shots that they did release in that Vanity Fair piece look like shots from the Zapruder film. Yeah, that crowd was huge. I think they did draw those people. They overflowed the stadium, and then there's a backup stadium with even more people. And then you had Musk, Trump, and I mean, this was a political rally, but it was quite a lot more. I mean, what they did was incredible. And if anybody thinks this is all spontaneous and this is all organic, they're living in a fictional universe. Plain Dakota says, this might break down how the ceremony was a ritual eclipse rite. No, I noticed the timing. So was it a partial eclipse? I mean, there's quite a lot of occult subtext in all of this stuff that we need to delve into. But the stuff that demonstrates or proves this to be a hoax are it's not just the visuals. Like, it looks real, doesn't mean it's real. Looks fake, doesn't mean it's fake. These are opinions. We are deconstructing this thing with a different premise in mind here. We're looking at this as a constructed, manufactured, historic event meant to be a turning point in history. And that's how they're framing it. Chalk Body had a guy that went to the memorial. He said people started leaving when Trump was talking. Possibly. I imagine that a lot of people, like a big event, would want to leave before the crowds. You had that rapper there. What's his name? Horatio Blow. The guy's just parody at this point. Somebody should tell him. He's a white rapper using rap to make a rap song about lynching. And at the same time, there's some lynchings going on, which are being called suicides. And then Colin Kaepernick comes out and he's like, I'm going to pay for the second autopsy on Trey Reed because I think he was lynched. Kind of paraphrasing. All happening right now. And you look at the guy Trey Reed, you got to see it for yourself. Trey's his nickname. His full name is basically Trayvon Martin. What's up, NDB? Says Trump was a sellout in 2020. No, Donald Trump is a world stage actor. He doesn't have any real power. I mean, not in the sense that we think he does. Like, he doesn't have a button to blow up the world with nukes, because those are not really a thing. Yeah, I saw that was interesting as well, plain decoded. So Turning Point USA's address at 217 Illinois Street stands out because 217 is a reference to the assault weapons ban, the bill they tried to pass that failed. And then 217 corresponds to the movie Weapons, which has a very blatant 217 built into the entire script. It's even on a big gun, and it's a school shooting analogy. There are connections between the movie Weapons and the Annunciation school shooting, where you had a trans shooter and one that was part of satanic Nazi groups and stuff, which, it adds this dimension to it that actually parallels the witch in Weapons who clears out the classroom of children, not with a gun, but with magic or witchcraft. But it's an allegory. So there's some fascinating connections when you think about what Kirk was talking about when he was shot, and the intentional irony of it all. That he's like, yeah, it's worth sacrificing a few lives every year to maintain our Second Amendment. So they've manufactured this whole thing just full of irony. The script is pretty obvious to me, but all right. So anyway, to focus here on the list of things we're going to go over, we're going to go over the video, of course. I don't want to watch it back and forth ad nauseum. We know what we've seen, but we're going to look at some of the best examples of staging, choreography, and other anomalies. And most of the conspiracies, well, I'd say the conspiracies that are surrounding this are all planted. Anybody saying, yeah, you could do the math here, the shooter was over here. No, the shooter was over here. No, it was a palm gun. No, it was a sniper, and this guy was sending him hand signals. So you have all these various explanations for it, but they're all built on the false premise that Charlie is dead. No, Charlie is not dead. This is a state-created martyr. This is like bigger than JFK. What they have done, it would almost be like Jesus coming back and getting crucified. Not quite, but close. Like, this is definitely a religious psyop. But they fused religion and politics. It's not like there's any difference. I look at religion, politics, and media as all subsets of government mind control. And when I say government mind control, I don't mean the U.S. government. I mean the only government. And there's only one as far as I'm concerned. I don't even know what to call it. But they created this martyr to do for the right what George Floyd did for the left. Validates their worldview, polarizes them against the other side, and really just charges them up politically. And now we're coming up on 10/14. And check this out. Do you remember I had a popular tweet? Well, from my perspective, it's not that big. Just pointing out that Charlie Kirk and George Floyd have the same birthday. So I point this out when they announced that they're going to have Charlie Kirk Day on 10/14. And I said, maybe we should have George Floyd Day. Well, that tweet got a lot of traction. And now the PR person for Antifa has announced that they're organizing a national counter to Charlie Kirk Day on 10/14. And the No Kings protests are already mobilizing for October. So they will have boots on the ground for George Floyd celebrations on 10/14. Like, this is perfect. This is entirely scripted this way. Soul 101 says, people never cared about Kirk. They're now being obnoxiously annoyed about him. Well, you have these little kids. I am Charlie Kirk. I am Charlie Kirk. Sam Hyde. I am Charlie Kirk. Say it. Say you're Charlie Kirk. And tell your sister she's Ierna Zaruski, who got killed in the subway. It's like, no, I'm not going to personalize these psyops. Jay Christopher says, if this was real, there would always be a crime scene investigation, always. Yeah, you got to see this video. Well, you'll see it today if you go. Someone posted a video comparing cops showing up to a riot at a mall where a gunshot went off in Miami to the cops responding at Utah after an assassination and where there's an active shooter. They didn't lock down the school for an active shooter. That's a first. No lockdown. But if you look at the response, nothing going on at Utah. They're just taking down the stuff, moving the chair where he was shot in. Like, out of all the things that you wouldn't want to touch, it would be the chair that the victim was sitting down on when he was shot. But they moved it. No big deal, right? And I see all these media simps in the Twitter feeds just saying, well, he had to protect it so people wouldn't take it. It's like, come on. Who the hell are you to try to defend their bad work? You don't work for the PSYOP department. If you don't work in the intelligence agencies PSYOPing the American public, you don't need to be an apologist for their shitty work. I mean, they're pretty bad. Otherwise, we wouldn't exist here as a think tank. But the response was incredible. Because it's like, yeah, there's a riot at a mall, and you have 50 squad cars shutting down the whole area, lights blazing, and then this thing goes down in Utah, and they can't even bother to declare an active shooter while there's an active shooter. Hank G says, are we witnessing the dawning of a new religion, Kirkianity? Absolutely. That's not an exaggeration. See, if you look at the purpose of religion as it's used as a tool of governance and how they fuse the two, I can understand now why the QAnons think JFK was the second coming. That, you know, these people still worship JFK. As weird as that sounds. Some of them were hoping he would show up yesterday. It's like, you don't get JFK Jr., you got RFK Jr. You're not getting JFK, you're getting Charlie Kirk. It doesn't matter, though. These are all part of a template. And this will all make sense when we look over King Kill 33. Yeah, I really like RFK's comment about how our social media is plugged into our lizard brains in order to keep us tribal and polarized at all times. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But he's part of that machine. And there's more about this we should get into. So we talk about the JFK stuff. You know, the director of Manchurian Candidate, which again has the assassin. It's basically I think they filmed part of it at the White House. There's quite a lot of overlap with the director of the Manchurian Candidate, Frankenheimer, and JFK. Then JFK dies. Well, Frankenheimer then later drives RFK Sr. to the Ambassador Hotel, where he's killed by Saran Saran. He's right there for that as well. Like, that's weird. You got a major Hollywood director hanging out with assassinated presidents, making movies about assassinated presidents, which has us looking closely at another movie of his, Black Sunday, which might play into what's coming up. Penguin Eye says, Kirk only has 13 million IG followers. He's no Taylor Swift or Lady Gaga. He'll be forgotten in a year. No, I don't think so. He's been no, they're passing bills. They're going to put statues up of him. There are tens of thousands of new chapters opening up. Turning Point USA is blowing up right now. And now it's under the directorship of Erica Kirk. So he is not going away. You're going to see him on a coin or something. And not some crypto. I mean, like, on a bill. This guy has become, I think some bishop caught some flack for saying that he's like St. Paul. Yeah, see you in Valhalla. We have that connection. See, in all likelihood, from the age 18 to 31, he's just playing a role, like Timothy McVeigh. And then later, McVeigh shows up working at some Miami FBI office as a special officer, pushing pencils, desk job. So I expect Charlie Kirk probably just now has some boring job, not in front of the public anymore. Or will at some point. Like, he's not going to quit. I mean, what I'm suggesting here, because these PSYOPs aren't planned the day before. The predictive and concurrent programming would suggest a lot longer and with specificity. But my contention is he became this character for TPUSA, which is hugely part of our historic meta script. Charlie Kirk came into it at the age of 18, probably with full knowledge that he was going to die a martyr at 31. That he was going to marry some Miss America or Miss Arizona. Probably a fake marriage, honestly. Fake kids, rent-a-kids. Like a constructed family, like the Obamas. But I think it's a total contrivance. There's another thing too, because there's about the legacy. And so I was looking at something before. Sorry about the noise there. One of the common phrases that we've seen with every major death faker, specifically rappers, but a lot of them, has been the word legend. So I'm looking up the word legend in the context of spycraft. And it turns out that legend is a term that the Russians use to refer to individuals who are given a totally fake, fabricated life and backstory. Yeah, the marriage was set up by Trump. That's how they met. Well, yeah, I saw a couple of things. Charlie Kirk's father worked for Trump Tower as an architect. And then you see Miss Arizona with some Trump-owned pageant. And looking at it from that perspective, this is a closed movie set. These actors, all these political agitators, all the people who spoke that day, like Jack Posobiec, that's the guy that kicked off Pizzagate. And he's the one who really started the whole idea that now the mass shooters have gone from white bowl-cut racist Nazis with MAGA parents to leftist trans shooters who got radicalized on Reddit. Like, they made that switch. And they turned them satanic. So they've created a satanic panic scenario with regard to the shooters. They have them shooting Christian schools. That's another aspect of the Annunciation shooting, about the idea that this is an attack on Christian America, Christian morality, traditional moral values, etc. And their manifestos all reiterate this. And DB says, Charlie, knowing the script gives him more power, so to speak. Well, a lot of foreshadowing. There's quite a bit of foreshadowing. Just even some random stuff, like he tweeted 10 years ago. He's like, wow, did I just get shot by an AR-15? Doesn't make any sense. But more recently, in fact, I think his head of security told him, you're going to get killed at one of your public events if you don't have security. And then he told his wife, in this article you can find, she's like, I told him to put on a bulletproof vest, and he said no. And now she thinks that it was divine, that he had to die. There was like 100,000 people crying. This is how powerful the PSYOP was. You saw 100,000 people crying. The only person who wasn't crying was Erica Kirk. I mean, if you consider crying to include tears. I mean, she was going through the motions. Yeah, okay, that's another one as well. And we'll get into all of this in the discussion tonight. The term enough is enough has been written into the Illuminati playing cards, and it's been used quite a bit leading up to the Trump shooting. And then Hulk Hogan said, enough is enough when they try to shoot the president. So we've seen enough is enough as a reoccurring PSYOP phrase. Well, Charlie Kirk's final YouTube short was called Enough is Enough, already associated with snipers. You can look it up for yourself. Conscious Reality says everything's a conspiracy. They want us to question everything and make us feel like we're going insane. The evil is so intense. Yeah, because if you have a functioning intuition, you're going to sense the lies. You know, I mean, I don't know how you are with lies, but like oftentimes I know somebody's lying without them telling me, because they never tell you. And then you call them out on it and they still don't tell you. You have to catch them. How often do liars admit it? Never. So if you're sensing the lies all the time, but then everyone's going along with it, you're basically being gaslit. And gaslighting is actually a form of emotional abuse. It's psychologically abusive, because what it does is it gets you to cease relying on your own perceptions and to outsource perception to the dominant voice, which is the mob, the collective, the TV. So what we're seeing truly is a gaslit society in a toxic relationship with media, in a cult-like setting. And they're in desperate need of deprogramming. And you tell them that and they want to attack you. I've had a lot of people tell me, hey, you're just grifting, stop talking about this. It's like, no, this is skepticism. Please don't shoot me in the neck, because I'm not going to shut up about this. Like, you can't talk about Charlie Kirk getting shot in the neck or I'll shoot you in the neck. But I see these internet Karens, and I'm like, you guys just had a martyr you're crying over who died for free speech, and now you're bitching about people using free speech? Like, get out of here. Go to church or whatever. Or wherever they really go. I mean, I guess they're terminally online, but it's like trying to police the thoughts of the wrong people here. I'm not going to be cowed or shamed into not speaking my mind and acknowledging my own perceptions. Salty Siren says it's so frustrating. Yeah, it truly is. Because the masses have been given a terrible operating system. They've been given maids. You know, COVID is a hoax. The vaccine thing, I don't think that's I think that's a hoax. The fear of the vaccine is a hoax. But what they did do is the government did give everybody mind aids. That is a real conspiracy. Maids. What that means is a non-functional mental immune system. Total susceptibility to mind viruses. Anx G said, it'd be great if you could do one of those PSYOP trading cards with Laura Loomer as the saw puppet. Yeah, I actually like Laura Loomer. I mean, her opinions are obviously wrong and crazy, but I think she's funny. I don't think she's a terrible person, but she's got horrible opinions. I don't know how much of it she actually believes. In fact, I think she can't possibly believe 90% of it, but these people are just so deep in this, in the theater of Psy-War. No, I think she's funny based on her tweets. I'd like to see her and Candace Owens go at it MMA. Or maybe Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens. No, the thing about Laura Loomer that's interesting is that she's been connected to the Trump shooting PSYOP for a long time. Back in 2017. Back in 2017, she jumped on the stage where the Donald Trump character playing Julius Caesar gets stabbed, and she tries to stop it. She called out Alex Soros about predictive programming for a head wound in The Atlantic months before Butler. She called out Time Magazine for the 9/11 release of Trump in a golf cart in a sand pit, and it says Trump's in trouble, and it's got a red flag behind him. And this was released around the time of Ryan Routh attempting to shoot him. So Loomer's too close to all of this to not be in the know. That's why I think she's interesting. You know, we have a number of people we can point out who can be credibly accused of being metascriptors. They're producing content to reinforce the incoming psyops. So they're knowingly participating in the mass deception, and she is in that category. As is Candace Owens. Like, these people aren't dumb. They're handled. So you have to also remember too that these like investigative journalists like Laura Loomer or James O'Keefe or Candace Owens, they're not investigating anything. They're propagandists spoon-feeding content to target demographics. They're not originating stuff in the sense of a real journalist. Everything they do takes place in this theater of Psy-War. They don't go outside of that controlled box. It'd be like if you watch The Truman Show and Truman's walking around and he sees some reporters in The Truman Show. Like, are they really doing reportage? No. They're reinforcing the false paradigm. It has nothing to do about informing this guy about his predicament, but maintaining his predicament. All right, so we're going to be in the Zoom conference. I upgraded it. Thank you, everyone who purchased the book. I know I had to send them back and refund everybody, but it's on Amazon now. And I'm going to catch up on everything. And I managed to upgrade the Zoom, so we're not going to be constrained to 40 minutes. So if you want to get into Zoom, if you're a member, just go to infiniteplanesociety.com. I posted a link. If you're on YouTube and you're a member, go to my posts, and I posted a link. And also Patreon has the link. Password is IPS. We're going to start at 5 p.m. and it'll take us 2.5 hours or so. I want to go through all the content that we possibly can. And I also want to take your comments. And you don't have to be on camera. This is Zoom. It's just going to be a screen share. All right, we'll see you there.